Hamilton, welcome to the podcast, brother.
Kyle, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
I want to dive into what has allowed you to become you, So tell me about life growing up and tell me about what got you into the medicine path.
Well, life growing up was pretty Silicon Valley. I grew up in Los Gatos. I came from a family of professionals. My father was a surgeon. My mother's a nurse. My brother's a lawyer. We were going to school, prep schools and stuff like that for college. And, it was all about sports and being the best we could be and, pushing the envelope in that sense. And it was always about, high achievement and stuff like that. And I ended up going to the University of Colorado and I studied anthropology when I was there. A number of kind of really interesting synchronicities and things that fell apart ultimately had me there. And that was really, really changing in its own right. I got really sick when I was in high school, and that changed my perspective on sort of how I could pursue my life. So I actually looked for lifestyle after that more than just achievement. And so I kind of wanted a balance of both. I went to Colorado. I was supposed to play golf on their golf team, but another series of events made that an impossibility. And so I just studied there. I started traveling the world, getting really interested in what was going on around the world and getting really interested in what was going on with humans. So I studied anthropology, both interested in the past, the deep past and, our ancestors and evolution. And then I was also really interested in the living cultures and what they were still doing, So it seemed like there's this Western world, the civilization that had spread. But, I had these deep questions like, were there still mystics and were there people who still held ancestral knowledge? And did these tribal cultures really have a gateway into the soul or a gateway into spirits that they talked about? And there are these ethnographies that tell these crazy stories and, of the original pioneers and explorers that went in and met these people. And it was always intriguing to me because it's a little bit like science fiction and it's a little bit like medicine and it's a little bit, about just sort of these people that have survived conquest and living in these very remote places of the world. And so I was interested in it, but never thinking I was going to end up having my life go in that direction. I graduated from college. Right before I graduated from college, I had a whole life that was set up. I was going to be involved in international shipping, funny enough. And then after that, professional golf. And through that whole trajectory, I ended up having a spontaneous awakening where I just kind of saw through the veil and I started to have extraordinary experiences. I was completely sober when it happened. I knew it was happening. I was completely lucid. I knew other people were not seeing what I was seeing. It seemed like they were still behind a veil and I had kind of pierced through this veil. And so I started to research really what I could do about that. Like, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. So the genie was really outside the bottle. I was having these visionary experiences. I was having prophetic dreams. I was having lucid dreams. I was 22 years old, going on 23. There wasn't anybody really talking about this in my circles. So I started to search where I could, find some answers. And ultimately, the synchronicities guided me to these tribal societies that I had studied in anthropology. So I was sort of back there and seeing that there were stories coming from them that were really akin to this, what was happening to me. So I felt very called in that direction. And literally within 6 weeks of that awakening, I was on my way to Peru, seeking out this solution to these visions that I had and really thinking probably nothing would come from it, thinking I was probably just, either delusional or wishing that science fiction could be real or, something like that. So I actually went to Peru thinking that I wouldn't find the apprenticeship that I had seen in Vision and I wouldn't meet the people that I had seen in Vision. But actually I did. They were waiting for me. I, had the visions there with them that I was supposed to stay and work with them. They ended up accepting me into their lineage. And I started a medicine path, and at the age of 23, that continues to the day. It's been 22 years and really an amazing journey.
There was no end in sight. Did you feel any of that? Like I can't put the genie back in the bottle. That was like a driving factor. Was there fear around that, or was there just this knowing to listen to your calling?
No, it was all fear at first. Like the whole thing was fear. Like I didn't know what was going on. I didn't have any frame of reference for this. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I was being told by dreams and visions what to do and where to go. You're thinking like, this isn't like your high school counselor. This isn't like someone who's laid the path for you. How is all of this going to work out? And then, you're going into this other extraordinary realm of consciousness. You don't know if it's real or if you're making it up at first. You don't know what's going on. I was confronted by all these doubts, confusions, and fears. I ultimately had to confront those. So no, I think there was a lot of fear going into it. Funny enough, the fear lasted through about the first 750 ayahuasca ceremonies. So the fear was like a decade-long journey. Like it started right then, and then it unveiled how much fear I had been indoctrinated with. And then it unveiled after that, like, not only deal with the fear that you got indoctrinated with as a kid, but now take on the fear of the unknown of what you're going into that just keeps expanding and growing as the responsibilities around that keep expanding and growing. So, I think that aspect of the fear is really intense. What people don't talk about when you train is that you have a role in society that's very important in the Amazon, and that's to take care of all of the people that are really sick. So you start with this idea of, I might be scared of dissolving into the oneness, or I might be scared of what happens to my own consciousness. Pretty soon, it's like people showing up in canoes with half dead people saying, please fix them, with a whole family screaming and crying. I'm like a, American guy in my mid-20s down there with a mapacho in my hand and a shakapa. And I got to fix this like baby that's about to die. Or I got to fix this, elderly person that's about to die. You only have some medicinal plants and some chants and stuff that you learned. And so, that just kind of piles on the intensity of the fear. Then that moved to being internationally recognized in a field that was, very fringe and very unknown at that time. There were concerns around that and how just we would be perceived. And then it moved on to working with people from around the world, where all of a sudden you're responsible for 40 or 50 people in these experiences that have come from 10 or 20 countries from around the world. And we've all gathered for this experience. And so it just kept ratcheting up the next level of intensity around that. And in our work, there was no microdose. It was all macro experience. And so you had to be ready to get in there, come what may in that, ceremony, deal with whatever was going on with the whole group. And so that was all very intense. Then you get into the idea of set and setting. And when you're a practitioner, set and setting is always against you, because you're literally bringing into the ceremony people that have tremendous problems. And so, you're stacking the ceremony with insane darkness to begin with. So it's not like, hey, we're in this beautiful place with, this medicine and we're all going to get together and have this experience. It's more like people coming to you that have had, tremendous traumas in their life, tremendous darkness. Some people have ancestral connection to that, and they're trying to be liberated from it. They're coming to you saying, please help me be liberated from this. And I was trained in those arts. And so in that situation, you don't really know what you're getting yourself into that night. It could be, I think it's very akin to like an MMA fight. You know that there's a certain kind of container for the experience, but you don't really know how bad it can get in there. You kind of have an idea, but you don't fully know until, you're in the round itself. And now you're, 10 out of 10 visions on ayahuasca in the quote unquote medicine, having to deal with that. So that was always a very intense thing as well. And all of that ultimately produced fear.